The migrant smuggling business in Western Balkan countries is worth around 50 million of euros each year. You made assessment of every step of the way, showing that people smugglers of different sort get a lot of it, as well as three major smuggling zones. What are they, and how much money circulates among each one of them?
Over the last few years, this large flow of people that was moving through the Western Balkans in 2015, 2016 has gone down, but there's still more than 100,000 people going through the Western Balkans every year. And whereas in the past, the main route was going from Greece through North Macedonia, straight up through Serbia to Hungary, with the closing of the border between Hungary and Serbia, people are now starting to move through Bosnia-Herzegovina. We saw this trend starting in around 2017, 2018. You have to remember that back in 2015, about 500,000 people went through Serbia, went through North Macedonia. According to the UN, 133 people went through Bosnia in 2015. Today, it's around 30,000 people. So in our research, we looked at the entry points into the Western Balkans, and we saw two major points still coming through North Macedonia, but also moving now more into Albania. And the exit points are still up between Serbia and Hungary, although that's quite difficult. So people are digging tunnels, or they're trying to go through Romania and then back into Hungary. And the big bottleneck, which is in the Unasana County of Bosnia-Herzegovina, people trying to get into Croatia, but finding it very difficult to get through. What we saw, as you mentioned, that overall, by a conservative estimate, we think this market is worth at least 50 million euros in those entry and exit points, probably more because people are coming in and going out through different routes as well. And we also noticed that the amount of money being made in the entry points is more or less the same amount of money as being made in the exit points. So around 20 to 25 million in the south and 20 to 25 million as they're going out.
Well, the report identifies various of types of smugglers presented in Western Balkans, describing them as fixers, gatekeepers, and package dealers. Every one of them have its role and its price.
Yes, as you say, there are different types of smugglers at different points of the route. So the ones that we called fixers are the ones who basically take people within a country. So it might be a taxi driver that's picking somebody up and moving them somewhere else in the country, somebody helping just in their car or in a truck to move them in the country, not making a lot of money, but still a few hundred euros. Then we have the gatekeepers, as that suggests. Those are the people helping people to get across a river, for example, like the Drina, to get through a tunnel or through a fence or cross a border. That's more risky and therefore more lucrative. Then the big money is with the package dealers. And most of those people are outside the region, particularly in Turkey or Greece, promising people a kind of end-to-end package, almost like a tourism agency, to get them from Turkey into the European Union. There's a fourth group as well, though. That's the kind of self-help group, mostly young men, either who run out of money during the journey or have enough connections through social media or through people that have gone before that are going in a very low budget way, mostly in their own with their own wits, their own technology to try and go through the Western Balkans.
Where did they get the money to pay for the smugglers?
So this is not cheap. Some of these package deals can be thousands of euros, but most of those payments are made up front in Turkey or Greece, for example, or a kind of success fee once they've made it to the European Union. And that's very often through a money transfer. The people who are traveling usually hide money on themselves, but they've also learned through trial and error that this can be dangerous, either the money being stolen by other people on the move, by thieves, even by the police in some cases. So they very often use money transfer systems like Western Union or banks that they'll withdraw a few hundred euros as they go. So they have some cash as they move. This money is often coming from their family. Most of the people on the move are young men. It's a kind of survival of the fittest, and they will have received money from their savings or from people in their community trying to make sure that they make it to the West, and then the rest of the family maybe can come later.
Where do migrants encounter smugglers, and what are the security agencies doing when it comes to that?
The migrants are encountering smugglers in refugee camps, for example, in Greece. They encounter smugglers over the internet, so through social media or different chat functions. They'll encounter smugglers in logical places where there's some kind of infrastructure hub. So at a bus station in Thessaloniki, for example, or at a train station, could often be word of mouth. The law enforcement, in most cases, it's difficult to crack these encrypted messages, but they will be looking out for these people in these major transportation hubs. It's usually quite obvious where these people operate. And they'll try and break up the rings. But what we noticed in some cases is that the police are actually facilitating the movement of these people and also making money. So I'm not saying this is a problem through the whole system, but there have been cases in several countries of the police also being enablers.
There's an interesting finding in the report about Kurds from Turkey and companies in Montenegro.
So the traffickers and smugglers are becoming much more sophisticated. The case that you described was in Montenegro, where there was companies that were legitimate companies that would then have letters of invitation for people to come. But then when the police started to track them down, the company would have folded and a new company popped up. But we've also seen truck drivers in Greece having letters to have legitimately a passenger with them, with somebody who has a passport, which is a perfectly good passport, but not of the person sitting in the truck, someone who looks like the person in the truck. And so they can move rather easily. Also, some of these bigger package deals, there's a lot of money involved, and also sometimes very sophisticated ways of forging documents, of bribing people. It can be quite big business and quite sophisticated.
It also can get a bit dangerous, especially for the migrants as well.
Yes, it can. It can be dangerous insofar as the risks of being pushed back. It can be dangerous if they come in contact with electrical cables, for example, if they're close to train tracks in some cases. We've heard horrible stories of men who hid inside a container and landed up on the other side of the world, and by then they were long dead. There are increasing numbers of pushbacks on the border with Hungary or Croatia. But by the time migrants have got to those borders, some of them have been on the move for months. And some of them are trying for the 20th time to get across the border. And you can see how desperate the situation is.
There's one serious issue when it comes, especially for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I guess that applies to other countries as well. That's the porosis of the borders. We do not have enough police officers to stop them, and it's kind of difficult to return them into the country they came from.
That's absolutely true. And the result is that there's a law enforcement problem, but there's also a humanitarian problem. But let's face it, there's a bigger political issue here as well, that the closing of the Balkan route maybe made it easier for the EU, but it didn't make it easier for countries in the Western Balkans. Why should these countries be dealing with this issue more or less on their own? I think there needs to be a lot more solidarity, a lot more support, that the Western Balkans just doesn't become some big waiting room for people trying to get into the EU.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.